What's going on, guys? Welcome back to United View. Manchester United won, Southampton won. More drop points at Old Trafford. Same old, same old. I've said it during the match view. I feel like Bill Murray because it's Groundhog Day. I feel like I'm in Rocky Horror Picture Show because I'm in a time warp. It's the same thing. It's the exact same thing. I was speaking to James before we went live. We were actually having a discussion. Should we just put the match reaction from in the week up? Because it's the same. It's the exact same. More drop points in the race for top four. Another first half that actually looks somewhat promising, and another second half that was just devoid of anything promising at all. There's so much to get into. Joined with DJ and James for this one, for their sins, unfortunately, guys. James, what did you make of that?
It's just really hard to watch, mate, isn't it? I guess as a neutral, it was probably what it was built to be, like an entertaining game between two top 10 sides, right? Like that's literally what it looked like. It looked like two teams that were on par with each other, going end to end, and both fighting for the cause, and both were on top at different bits. But from our point of view, like that's 4 points dropped in the league this week, and it's like against who? Against Burnley and Southampton. And it's just like you said, Groundhog Day, same thing, week in, week out, day in, day out. And it's hard, mate.
Yes, it is indeed very hard. DJ, this is why I'm saying it's the same thing, is again, when everyone came into the room here before we went live, everyone did the same thing. Everyone just comes in and goes, oh. And that's not because we've got a toxic work environment at United View. It's because it's the results. It's every single game. It feels just, DJ, you were saying earlier on in the season, talk about Ronaldo being inevitable. It's inevitable that Man United are going to drop points at the moment. How do you make that?
Oh, man, it's just a tough watch. I think the frustrating thing comes from knowing that we played some good stuff early on. We looked really dangerous, looked up for it. And then it's kind of like we just always seem to peter out as the game goes, especially in the second half. Again, drop points. And, I know we have some players who are big in name and stuff like that, but there's a clear difference. And obviously I'm just stating the obvious, but there is a clear difference between us and the top three sides of the league. The top three sides of the league, they're ruthless, and we're not ruthless enough. I think we're not ruthless enough on a number of levels. I don't think we're ruthless enough, obviously, on the pitch at the moment. I don't think we're ruthless enough in terms of dropping players from a managerial point of view. And I love Ralf. I love what he's brought to the club. But I just think we need to be a bit more ruthless. Like Rashford wasn't giving us anything for a long time in that game. Should have come off. But we'll get into him. But it's just disappointing. I think that sums up for me. Very disappointing.
Yeah, it's just, like I said, it feels deja vu. I mean, even during the match view, when it came to the second half, I said, I tell you what, 47th minute, we conceded against Burnley. We need to make sure that just first couple 5-10 minutes, second half, we're just aware. 48 minutes, bang, goal. And it's the same thing again. And it's the same overall thing. It's not just like you can pinpoint and go, I tell you what, early goal conceded in the second half again. But you can also look at it as first half, again, we played well. We played well. We made chances. We maybe should have scored more than one goal. And then second half, it's conceded an early goal, then just completely disintegrate. And like, James, how does Ralf resolve that? Because there's no way at halftime he wasn't saying to him, because he said it 100 times in the press conference yesterday of like, make sure you don't drop off, stick to the game plan. How does he resolve that like mentality problem?
I wish I knew. I bet he wishes he knew as well. Like, I guess it's just repetition, just saying it to them over and over again, maybe making the mistakes over and over again until you ultimately learn. Listen, you can't take your foot off the gas at any time in the Premier League, whether you're playing Burnley in 20th or whether you're playing Southampton or a top 4 or top 3 contender or whatever. You just can't take your foot off the gas. I agree with you. First half, I thought we were very good. I thought it was an open game. Southampton are a good team, right? So you're not going to go and blow them away because they are a good footballing team. They work hard. They've got some good players. But Paul Pogba masterclass first half. Honestly, like the guy was controlling everything. His passing range is superb. We get the goal, which we deserved. We have another one ruled out correctly for VAR. And it's like, things are positive. Like 1-0, I'll take that. But then you're kind of thinking at halftime in the back of your mind, oh, wait, this is Man United. 4 out the last 6 games when we've been leading, we haven't won. So in the back of your mind, you're thinking, oh, wait a minute. This is going to change. Don't get too cocky. Don't get too confident. And then before you know it, 3 minutes. and we're conceding. And I'm sure we'll touch on it, but a very, very sloppy, avoidable goal. Like, great finish by Che Adams, but from a defensive point of view, too many errors in there. So, yeah, huge mentality issue across not just some players, but all players at the club, mate.
It does certainly seem like that. And given that, again, it's such a thing that's happened over and over again, if you're Ralf, DJ, do you look at this and just say, like, again, like if there's obviously a fundamental mentality issue here with some of these players, a fragility, and it's going to take way longer than a couple of games. It's going to take way longer than I thought it was going to take in the first place.
Yeah, I think it's going to take a while. And me looking from the outside, looking in, I just simply just say, look, guys, learn from your fucking mistakes. Just learn from your mistakes. Just learn from your mistakes. Just know that you've gone 1-0 up and just know, you know what? Let's keep it compact. Let's keep it tight for at least 10, 15 minutes. Take the steam out of them and we'll go again. We'll attack again. Like, it's not hard. Like, obviously, I know this is professional football, but it is not hard. Literally, you band together. You're a team. And you literally just kind of come together on the pitch and do what you need to do. And I just feel that we're just too fragile. And again, and I know what Ralph's going to say, it was within the transitional moments. He's been saying that since Middlesbrough, I believe, that we always get caught within the transitional moments in defending, and the defending in the transitional moments hasn't been good. When we're having to run back towards goal or the balls come through one of the channels, we struggle with it. We struggle to get back in shape and deal with the issue. And we've conceded a lot of goals like that. So it's just the same old. It's rinse and repeat. Yeah, again, we'll talk about players in a bit, but there's a few players I really just think need to be benched for this at this moment in time. We need to try something different.
Yeah, I think it's one thing, like you said, it's one thing for it to happen a couple of times throughout the season. Rather, you go, tell you what, United conceding a lot of goals early on in the second half. It's another thing for literally the exact same thing to happen the next game, and to have Ralf Rangnick do a whole press conference of, we've got to make sure we keep our mind, open. We've got to make sure that we're aware. Because let's face it as well, whilst we played well in the first half, towards the end of that first half, Southampton were coming back into it. We kind of needed half time anyway.
Yeah.
And you would think, especially considering that we needed half time, Ralf would be like, right, okay, end of that half, a little bit dodgy. Make sure we keep the energy levels up and make sure we stick to the game plan. Don't do that. Super chat from Josh says, can anybody explain to me why Maguire is trying his hand at left wing? He is a battering ram who misses the target and leaves us open to the counter. Ronald Jacob also says, can someone explain to me why Maguire who is slower than my 75-year-old gran, is still on the pitch? Has Lindelof lost his knees? Get Maguire out now. We'll get to Harry Maguire shortly, James. But just overall, I always ask us at the end of the stream recently, going, our top four, can we make top four? I've seen quite a few people on social media today. I mean, they're really downcast about top four now. They feel like that's just the draw against Burnley, the draw against Southampton, given the fact that Arsenal won in the week, and you wouldn't maybe expect Spurs and Arsenal to drop points as well again this week. Whilst maybe top four isn't impossible now, are we firmly behind in that race at this point?
We're definitely behind, mate, yeah. We've got some catching up to do. I looked at the table before, and it's not just Spurs and Arsenal. Yeah. I think if West Ham win their games in hand, or Wolves or someone like that, then they even go, I think Wolves go level with us, which is crazy, if they win their games in hand. So it's not like we're just battling one team and we need one team to drop off. We need four teams to drop off and us to pick up at the same time. And realistically, it's looking less and less likely. And I've always said top four until it's mathematically impossible. But you know what? I might be changing my mind, because what I see, like, if I keep on seeing the same thing week in, week out, and I'm still the same positive self, what does that make me? An idiot, right? Literally not like the inability to think like comprehensively. So I guess I have to look at it and say, we're going to struggle and we're definitely behind. Yeah.
DJ, do you think we can make top four? I mean, like I said, mathematically, as James just mentioned, not impossible, but at the moment, you can't keep dropping points forever, right? And still be in that race.
Yeah, I said it a few weeks back. I do not think Manchester United is going to get top four. And it's not because I'm being negative. It's not because I've got an agenda. I just, Flex always talks about sample size, and we've mentioned it a few times on this channel. And when I'm looking at the sample size of Manchester United, in terms of can they be trusted? Can we trust this group of players? Yeah, we've had a few added, but the core group of players, can we trust them as fans? The answer is no. Because they've been very untrustworthy. They've been very inconsistent. They show moments of brilliance. the moments of where you're just like, is this team even a top 4 side, a top 6 side, a middle club? Like, who are we? We don't even know who we are at the moment. So for that reason, and for that reason alone, that is why I do not think we will be getting top 4. I just do not trust them. And, I just don't trust them. Like, I love them, but I just don't trust them.
Yeah,
it's a toxic relationship.
I felt that. I felt that we would get. I've said before that I backed us to get it because I felt that our quality would get us over the line. The issue is we're not really seeing that much quality. Certainly in the second half. And the point before was that we've got good players, they'll get us over the line, but we're not seeing it. We're just not. We've got a ton of super chats to get through, by the way, as well. Pablo says forwards out of form, light up front. Recent off-field issues haven't helped. The new scenario of only playing 45 minutes a game is a bit worrying. Usual leaks coming out about the staff concerning. 007 Methman says, Man United current team is just embarrassing now. We need players that want to play for the badge and not the glamour. Ronald Jacobs says, Maguire literally runs his fingers faster on Twitter than himself on the pitch. Also, Sancho doing well, but needs to learn to pass in the final third as he gets an opportunity to pass, but takes a shot. Got another one here. Says, I don't care that Pogba was world class in the half or that Sancho scored. We drew again. Who gives a damn about how well we played first half? So not happy about, I guess, parts. I mean, I guess that's probably fair, right? You can talk about playing well in periods of the game, but ultimately, we're not getting the points still. Let's get into some of the players, James, because, I mean, we could talk about players for days here. So we're going to talk quite a few in depth about some of these. I want to start off talking about Cristiano Ronaldo because during that game, well, coming into that game, maybe I should backtrack. Coming into that game, I think a lot of people thought, okay, he didn't play in the week, came on, wasn't that effective, didn't clap the fans or anything like that. Ralf was asked about that. But a lot of people thought we're going to see somewhat of a reaction by Ronaldo. He's got to score eventually. He's on one of the longest droughts of his career, etc. Again, today, we just saw the Cristiano Ronaldo that we have seen for the last few weeks in the sense that I don't feel confident when he gets the ball now that he's going to score, which speaks volumes for Cristiano Ronaldo. Like, how would you sum up his performance? And I mean, what's just going wrong with him at the moment?
Oh man, you had to come to Ronaldo first, didn't you? Jeez.
Yeah.
Apologise for what I'm about to say, but he wasn't good enough again, mate. He just was not good enough. And this is another crazy thing to say, but if we had Broha or we had Che Adams up front, we'd have won that game. They offered far more. They offered far more than Ronaldo in that game. Far more. His decision making, poor. He's based his whole career on being clinical in front of goal. Wasn't clinical at all today. He rounds the keeper, and you think, right, you've got to finish that. Lift it, put your foot through it, put some power on it. Just try to pass it into the net. Defender gets back, clears it, and then you're looking at a time when he gets a half volley near the end. In fairness, he puts his foot through it, hits the target, which Ronaldo always does, but straight at the keeper. Chance after chance, offside when he shouldn't be for the goal, really. Like that free kick when the Bruno delivers. Fantastic delivery, by the way, and we don't get enough of those. Absolutely fantastic free kick. He's looking along the line, you can see, and he's offside. They go early. And in
fairness, everyone was offside for that.
Yeah, they were. And listen, this isn't a Ronaldo hatred thing. Like, I love Cristiano Ronaldo. He's one of the best players I've ever seen live. Like, I think he's absolutely phenomenal, and I was ecstatic when we brought him back. However, fairy tales have to end sometimes, right? And I look at it and I think the romantic in me wants it to work and wants him to be the person that delivers us glory and the Champions League and a European trophy and all that. And you know what? He still probably could, because that's his competition, right? He shines in it. But I look at his performances week in, week out on the pitch, and he doesn't offer a lot. At some points today, I was like, we're almost playing with 10 men. He's completely ineffective. And I cannot believe I'm saying that about probably the player that I consider the greatest of all time. It's crazy.
Leon, though, says in a contrasting thing, says supply, Owen, supply. DJ, is it a supply issue, or is it just a case of, I mean, I don't want to say Ronaldo's finished. I've seen a lot of people saying, oh, he's finished, he's absolutely finished, all that kind of stuff. I don't know if that's completely fair, but he just is in really bad form. And as I mentioned, I just don't, when you used to watch Cristiano Ronaldo and you're in those last 10 minutes and you go, he'll come up clutch because he's Cristiano Ronaldo. And he has done it this season. Or if he gets a half chance, he'll score. It's Cristiano Ronaldo. You just don't, I don't, certainly. I just don't feel that at the moment. Like, do you feel the same, or how do you make the Ronaldo situation?
So when I look at Cristiano Ronaldo now, I just see a man that is basically fighting against himself because he knows the benchmark that he set. He knows that he is one of the GOATs, one of the two GOATs that we have in the sport at the moment. And I can tell he wants to still live up to that name. It's like he's almost holding on to it. The quality is there in patches, but in very situational patches on the pitch. His quality, which used to run fully over 90 minutes, maybe is in little bursts, 15 minutes there, 10 minutes here. I just see someone that does need to be dropped. He's 37 now. Father Time has no favourites. And we just need to start waking up. I think not even just us as United fans, but I think the footballing world, we just need to start waking up and just realising that this man is getting older. He's got a lot slower than he used to be. He's not as sharp. He's still sharp, but not as sharp as he used to be. A bit long in the tooth now. You know, and James is right. Like, fairy tales do come to an end eventually. And so I just would like for him to be used as that senior striker that we used other senior strikers as. Like, yeah, you come on for 15, 20 minutes, try and affect the game. This whole thing of him playing 90 minutes, I just don't think it works. I think if we had more of a younger striker, a youthful striker with a bit more energy, a bit more bite, then I'd think that maybe we would be able to see these games out and maybe finish a few more of these chances. I just think Cristiano Ronaldo now, his powers are waning. And I've said it a few times. He's getting to that point now where he's on the decline and we've just got to face it. So we've got a player that's 37. He's in the decline. Can we really be surprised? I don't think we can.
I think it's with Ronaldo. And I guess this is somewhat of a defense of him. Is that I feel like he could still be effective if everything went through Ronaldo. If everything in that team was made to make chances for Cristiano Ronaldo and put everything on a plate for him, then he would still be effective. We don't do that, I don't think, nor should we, by the way. I don't think we should. Yeah. But I just don't look at, because this is what frustrates me as well. Given his age, given what he is right now, he's still an unbelievable player, but given his age, given his current circumstances, it baffles me why in games he's coming back to try and take the ball off the midfield at the halfway line, or it baffles me why he's like tracking the ball back down the right-hand wing sometimes. I'm like, mate, you know your attributes, stick between the two centre-backs, don't go chasing the ball, don't go chasing mistakes, even if you're frustrated, and you will get an opportunity eventually at some point. But I don't know. Like I said, I just don't have faith that he's going to score. On the flip side, I would look at the bench today and say, well, who have we got on there? Because we didn't have anyone. Yeah. Cavani's injured. Yeah. And James, is this like a concern? We know Cavani's leaving at the end of the season. There was a report that came out earlier today talking that he's going to probably go to La Liga at the end of the season. But I mean, what problems do we have now up front? Because even if Ronaldo's not in form, we know Cavani he can play one game, maybe a week. If anything, given his fitness record, he's probably got to be a bench player now, a super sub. So what can we really do going forward?
Well, what can we do? That's the question, isn't it? Like, because if you look at it, a couple of weeks ago, before the transfer window opened, we thought, we have Cavani, Martial, Greenwood as options at number 9, right? And probably Rashford as well. And now you look at it and it's like, well, those 3 aren't options most weeks. Martial's off, Greenwood obviously can't play, and Cavani is injured a lot. So our options are very, very limited up front. And when it comes to changing games, it's like, actually, where are our options coming from? We can't change much in the 10. We can't change much in the 2 wide areas. Elanga might be a shout for a number 9. Like, he's played, obviously, number 9, like coming up through the youth ranks and stuff. So he could be a shout for someone like DJ mentioned, with a bit more energy, a bit more bite, a bit more hunger. And that could work, but it's a lot of pressure for a young lad in a team that's struggling at the moment, a fan base that is pretty toxic. I mean, I heard boos at Old Trafford at full time today.
Yeah,
I don't like that. I don't like that at all. But I heard boos. I understand why people choose to do it. But it's not my thing. But that just shows you that the fan base clearly aren't happy with what they're seeing, and the striking options are limited, mate. They are limited.
And Martial's gone.
Yeah, exactly. DJ, when it comes to maybe the striking options, then even though they're limited, if we're going to get the best out of Ronaldo, should he be playing by himself up front or possibly with a partner?
See, that's the thing. I think he works best with a partner. I think he works best with someone a little bit closer to him, that can kind of link up with him. And to be fair, I do think out of the front players, I thought definitely not Rashford, but Sancho. I thought Sancho was amazing the first half. Amazing. Like, everything he did, just so technical. And, there's a couple of times where he could have squared it, but, he's in confident form. He's going to want to try and shoot, and he has every right to. I think he was getting closer to Ronaldo, and there seems to be a link up sort of developing between them, but it hasn't really blossomed into its full effect at the moment. But I do think that Ronaldo would benefit with playing with maybe like a second striker, and I know Bruno tries to get up close to him as well, but for large periods of the game, he is isolated by himself up there, and he's not the Ronaldo of old who can probably take on two defenders by himself, like 2-1. That'll be fine for him. But yeah, I do think we may need to think about what options we have, and there is no options. I think Martial would have been a brilliant sort of deputy to bring in there for when Ronaldo's not performing well. I think Martial, the type of centre forward he is, I think I think it'll be better for our game in saying that, because Martial will have his back to goal. He will hold the ball up. He will bring others into play. He will wait for the midfield to push up. Ronaldo seems to be sort of still a through the channels type of striker, still from a set piece type of striker. And there's nothing wrong with that. I just think for this United team, the players we have, I think you need a centre forward that's doing a bit more.
Let's get to these super chats because loads of them. Zane Miasi's in with his mum's credit card of a super sticker. Appreciate you joining us, Zane. UFC says we beat Southampton 9-0 at Old Trafford last season. This was the sad thing was this is it. All we have is off the bench is Lingard and Alanga because Cavani is unreliable. And well, I guess when it comes to fitness, certainly. Asher says, can anyone explain why Maguire and Rashford get picked? Maguire is such a liability and Rashford has now morphed into Dan James. Ronnie is so lost, can't finish, isn't winning headers and can't pass. We're going to talk about Rashford in a second. Ronald Jacob says, with Ronaldo, we need to realise that the defenders in the Premier League are strong too. Please tell me one pass from Shaw or Dalot that has been good enough for his finish. He makes runs which go to waste. Interesting point of view there. Ronald Jacob also says, trust me, Ronaldo will leave in the summer and we would be left without a striker. United will then go in for Haaland and will fail in the summer and won't focus on a CDM. Even if we get Haaland, they will not get a CDM. So definitely thinks things aren't going well at United. Pablo says CR7 is not an issue. He's 37. We have no alternative. Rashford not tracking back on the goal. Can see half the players aren't mentally on it. Why? As I mentioned, we're going to talk about Rashford in a second. I think that's it. But yeah, get your super chats in as well. Click the $sign or your super stickers if you're saying Miassi's from your mum's credit card. Rashford. We're going to talk about Rashford, James. A lot of people during the game were not happy with his performance. I guess rightfully so. He started off on the right-hand side, ended up on the left-hand side for quite a lot of the game, even though that Sancho was having actually a lot of success down the left-hand side. Typical, I guess, Marcus Rashford that we've seen recently in the game, running into people, not making the right decision, not making the right passes. Sometimes when he was giving the ball away, it led to counterattacks. Certainly when he was on the left as well. I actually did sympathise somewhat for Luke Shaw because he was getting no support tracking back down the left-hand side. I mean, what did you make of Rashford's performance today?
I mean, like PJ said last time, I think, it's the lack of football intelligence. It's the playing like a kid, right? It's like just getting your head down, running, not really thinking about where your players, where your teammates are, how to create the best chance for the team rather than the glory for yourself. It's a really strange one because when he started off on the right and Sancho was on the left, that's where the goal comes from, right? And actually, that's the one bit in the game where you're like, he's shown a glimpse of football intelligence. He's made a great run in behind. The pass from Bruno is superb. He's kept himself on side. He's driven down. Sancho's behind the ball, so he knows he's not going to be offside. And he's put it on a plate for him, and Sancho scored. And you think, you know what? That's what I need to see more of from Marcus Rashford. And you thought, go on, lad, build on it. Like, your confidence should be there now. You've just created that goal basically on your own. Go on, kick on from there. And he didn't, mate. Unfortunately, his head seemed to drop. He was trying things. Next couple of times, they didn't come off. And I was like, you know what? Things don't come off. The best players try them again and again and again. Eventually they do. But nothing worked for him today. And nothing's working for him game on game. And unfortunately, I'm looking at it now and I'm thinking, well, where does he fit in this United team? Because people are clamouring for him to get a start at the 9. I don't think his finishing's good enough. I don't think he's intelligent enough. When we play him out wide, his performances aren't really great. So what's Marcus Rashford's future at Manchester United like at the end of the day? Like, if someone came in with a decent offer, do we keep him? Do we sell him? I don't know. Rashford's there. he's split in opinion at the moment. I can see DJ nodding, so I think he's driving him to the airport himself, I think.
Yeah.
But there's certainly, like, you're right, he is dividing opinion, DJ. I think some people will say, well, he got an assist today, so can it be a bad performance? He got an assist, but then you'll get other people that will say, whilst he did get an assist, he also was at fault for a lot of bad at Manchester United today, as I mentioned, running into players, not tracking back, doing the wrong pass. Some people are saying that he's being lazy in his defensive duties as well. Obviously, I know where you're going to go with this because you've been critical of Rashford in the last game, but did you just see more of the same than, I guess, today?
It's just Rashford. That's him now. I don't see him. Maybe I'm writing him off too early. I just don't see him getting any better than he is. This is him. This is his game. He's had a while. Like, he's been in the first team for a long while now, and there was some growth, I believe, under Jose. I'd say a little bit of growth under him, but since then he's kind of plateaued out, leveled out, and this is his game now. Maybe if a long-term manager comes in, they'll be able to do something with him, and if someone did come in with 70 million. Hey, we'd have to consider it, because at this moment in time, there is
that argument. No one's coming in for 70 million.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying in terms of if we're looking at other wingers across Europe, there's more effective, better wingers than him. If I had to give him advice, I'm not a pro footballer, so take it with a pinch of salt, Rashford, if you're listening to this. If I had to give you advice, Marcus Rashford, just simplify your game. Honestly, just simplify your game. You're quick. You're quick. You can beat a player sometimes. So just stick to that and whip the ball in. That's all you need to do. And what did he do? When he kept it simple, he put it on a plate for Sancho. He got an assist. We got a goal. So it shows you when he keeps it simple, we can make things happen. I think when he tries to overcomplicate it, go for glory, take on 4 or 5 players, run down blind alleys, flicks and tricks that aren't working, that's when we get hypercritical of him. I mean, if he wants to stay in this United team, he does need to play it simple, because that's what Elanga does.
Yeah, it's just the thing with Rashford. It's not a case of like he always just runs into players or he doesn't always try and cross in, but it's the decisions. He just felt like in that game, he made one right decision because he squared it. Now, if he'd have taken a shot in that situation, people would have gone, what on earth are you doing? He had to square it. But the point is that it just feels like it's always the decision. The decision is always wrong, or 90% of the time it is wrong. And like I said, I was really shocked that, and I understand wingers swap during the game to try and keep the defenders guessing. That happens. But just given the amount of success that Sancho was having in his first 20 minutes, he got in so many times. Yeah. I was just really surprised that Rashford then swapped over, and then Sancho was mainly on the right for the rest of the game. That felt a bit surprising to me. And I see some people say, no, you're only picking on Rashford. You're only doing this. You only do that. But it does seem to be a consistent thing. And I think it does speak volumes that even in a game where he did get an assist, the main sort of point when you talk about Rashford's performance is decision-making, because he could have had more. And I think that's the frustrating thing there.
Yeah, we looked very toothless. We looked very toothless once he went over to the left. And I think the commentators were saying, United, there's nothing's come from the left-hand side since Rashford went over there. He was losing the ball. It was leading to counter-attacks. But that's where I think Ralf should have just stepped in and said, hey, get back over here. Sancho, you go back over on the left. You know what I mean? But
yeah. Ronald Jacobs says, Rashford created the goal. I don't think he played bad. Not up to his standards, yes. There are bigger problems like McSauce and Maguire who offer nothing when they have the ball. I feel they will mess up. And Blue Dabadi says, Bruno put it on the plate for Rashford. That's probably fair. Bruno's pass for the goal was unbelievable. But even that, Bruno does a great pass today, but you still can't say that overall he played particularly well. Yeah. I think, again, because everyone dropped off second half so massively. James, let's talk about Harry Maguire. We're going from one player to another. Let's talk about Harry Maguire. Obviously, there was a ton of scrutiny on him. And I think he was a bit like every United player today in the sense that first half, you'd probably look at him and go, didn't do too much wrong, I guess. Didn't have too much to do, I guess. But when it really came into it second half, I think particularly about the point when Brozier just completely skinned him, and I'm not really sure what he was doing when he didn't need to. And this is my issue with his defending is he gets involved physically with him when he doesn't need to, and then he doesn't know where the ball is at that point. He's palming him off. He has no idea where the ball is, and he realizes the ball isn't there, and just starts wrestling with him again. And it was just, that's the frustrating thing. I mean, what did you make of him today?
He was piss poor, mate, wasn't he? I like you can defend him in the first half as much as you want, but I'm just coming out and say it that like the guy was shocking today. I sent you a picture of a tweet midweek, and there was a picture of Maguire, and there was a picture of a car on bricks, and it was like, which one of these moves quicker?
Fast, yeah.
Yeah, which one of these moves faster? And I was like, Owen, I'm genuinely torn. Like, I think it's the car on bricks, but I'm not sure. Like, I knew we were in for a long day as soon as I saw Broher turn Varane for pace. And as soon as he did Varane for pace, I was like, oh crap, he can do Maguire for pace easily if he realizes that. So I was like, right, okay, we're in for a tough day. Then there was the potential thing that could have been a penalty when he stayed on his feet and Maguire kind of clatters into his leg. He turned him, left him for dead.
He'd gone down.
Yeah, he could have easily gone down there because there's 100% contact. And then there was a couple of balls in the first half put in from the right-hand side that were flashed across the face of goal. Better movement from their strikers, and they score there. So I don't.
Che Adams should score if he doesn't slip.
Yeah,
he should score.
If he doesn't slip, he scores.
Yeah.
So you can talk about first half performances, but I thought he was poor throughout today. Normally it's a case of Varane carrying Maguire, but I mean, how often? Like you can't be asked to carry someone week in, week out, and how often can we look at Lindelof just sitting on the bench and not give him a chance? Like Lindelof and Varane, we're all asking for. We're all asking to see it. But like we've said before, does politics come into it? I don't know, because Maguire, there is no doubt in my mind that Ralph's got to be sitting there and thinking, "You're not good enough, Harry. You're not good enough." And I want to bring Lindelof in, but is he allowed to? Can he do that? I know he's done it once before, but was there like repercussions of that? I don't know. But Maguire was awful today, man. Come on, don't come at me defending him. He was not good today.
I just try to, play both sides, trying to do my best hosting role, you know what I mean? Try and be as impartial as I can. I say that, I go off on massive tangents. DJ, so obviously we knew Maguire was going to start. We knew that was going to happen. We did the press conference yesterday, and Ralf didn't say that Maguire was going to start, but he said, I hope to see a similar performance. So basically said he was going to start. So we knew that was going to happen. I mean, James touched on it then. How much longer does Ralf stick with him? Is it a political thing, or is it just a case of legitimately Ralf thinks that's the best pairing? And if so, does that reflect badly on Ralf?
That's actually quite a difficult question there. I do think Ralf sees weaknesses in Maguire, because he makes the same mistakes all the time. And I think we can talk about mentality and all this stuff. I just think that's an Achilles heel to his game. Every player has strengths and weaknesses, and that's just a weakness of his. Like when Brozier took the ball off him and he did that, he flicked his leg out a little bit. Like it looked so amateurish. Like it just looked so like, oh my gosh, like what is this, Conference League or whatever? No offense to the conference, but yeah, like flipping out. Like he just, I don't know. And you know what? James made a good point. Is there politics involved with Maguire because he's the club captain? Potentially England international, maybe. But if I'm Ralf now, I've backed you in the media. I've given you a game to try to sort yourself out. You haven't really improved as much as I wanted you to. Maybe eat bench for 2-3 games, depending on the opposition, obviously. If opposition have strong, big, heavy, strong forwards, then maybe you would play Maguire. But Lindelof, Varane, for me, I feel a little bit more at ease. I don't know about you fellas, but I feel a little bit more calm. I feel a little bit more at ease. They're a little bit more technical than he is. Just better players, in my opinion. And poor Lindelof. Remember, we used to slate Lindelof and say, Maguire needs a partner. Do you remember those days?
Yeah.
Look how the tables have turned.
Super chat from Pablo says, we will be a mediocre team until the Glazers go. Too many bang average players, and we need a manager who will actually deal with the princess's ego or the princess ego. Ronald Jacobs says, Maguire just makes me feel depression. I will say again, my old grand nanny who was 75. We've heard that twice today. Just if you weren't sure, Ronald Jacobs' granny is 75, is faster than him, and take a bag of sand and keep it on the side of Varane, who can do more defensively than Maguire can. Very strong opinions. There goes Harry Maguire, and he's back once again. Ted Mengi, who is our academy player, is levels above Maguire. Sal Maguire for a bag of salted peanuts and play half-fit by or Mengi or Lindesoft. There you go, Ronald Jacobs. Very strong opinions. Yeah, when it comes to that, when it comes to Harry Maguire, for me, and this kind of touches on your point, James, about being political, because I in the past have said that as well. It feels like a political thing. I do think, though, that Ralf could frame this in a way to him and just say, look, mate, you're maybe not in the best of form at the moment. There's a lot of scrutiny on you. I'm just going to take you out for a couple of games. Not because I don't like you. It's not because I think you're a bad player. I just think, let's get you out the spotlight a little bit. Yeah. And maybe that's what, a good manager would do. Just say, look, it's not necessarily because I think you're bad. I just think you maybe need a little less scrutiny, because all of the pictures after the Burnley game was Harry Maguire in the rain, mopping his head and looking downcast and all that kind of stuff. His interview after the game as well. And at this point, it's almost a case of Ralf has to almost make a choice, isn't he? Do I stick with these players that maybe the board want me to play, or I feel like I should be playing, or the bigger reputation, or do I want to actually get results? Do I actually want to get top 4? Because feels like the decision he needs to make at this point, right?
Yeah, it's a tough one, because if you're the manager and say you lose your memory and then it comes back and you've got no recollection of what any of the players cost, none at all. Like someone's used one of those things from Men in Black and neuralized you, and you've got no idea what anyone's cost. Does Maguire get in the team? No. Does Rashford get in the team? No. Does Ronaldo on current form get into the team? No. So there is maybe a case for too many big name players, big money players getting started far too often. Yeah. I think it would be a sensible thing to take players out of the limelight. I think, in fairness, Rangnick has done it before. Rashford got booed off against Wolves. He didn't play the next game. I thought that was sensible. Elanga missed the penalty against Middlesbrough, didn't play against Burnley the next game. So I think he has done that before, and I do think it's a sensible thing. Like I've mentioned before, toxicity in the home ground can be quite bad at the moment. So I do think it's a wise thing to keep people away from that. However, they've probably got access to their own social media and they can probably see some fairly toxic stuff on there. But Maguire definitely needs to, listen, a few games sit on the bench. And you're right, Rangnick could word it a particular way. Listen, I know you're club captain. We've got a lot of games coming up, thick and fast. We need you fit for some big games. We're going to rest you every now and then. We're going to bring in Phil Jones, going to bring in Lindelof, going to bring in whoever. Sit a few out, come in when we need you, that kind of thing. Stay out of the limelight and just get on with your job, get on focusing on training and getting better and developing your skill. And I think he could do that. Whether he will, I don't see it, to be honest.
Well, that's what was going to be my next question, DJ. Obviously, we're playing Brighton. I think it's Tuesday. We're playing Brighton.
Yeah, Tuesday.
Do you think he's going to start, Maguire?
He better not. He better not start. He better not start.
It wasn't necessarily the question I asked.
Yeah, I know. I don't know. I think we'll have to wait and see. I'm gonna do an Owen. I don't know, because I think after that performance, Rangnick's is gonna have to give Rangnick something. Rangnick's gonna have to do something, address it, because. And I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna make a statement. I actually think.
Oh.
You know me and my crazy statements. I actually think that Phil Jones will be playing better and giving a lot more than Harry Maguire right now, in my opinion. In my humble opinion, that's what I believe. And I think
that's too radical.
I think Phil Jones should be brought in. If there's no one else that's fit, if they're still umming and ahhing about Lindelof's fitness, then bring Phil Jones in. Why not?
That's the thing, DJ. I don't think they are, though. I don't think it's a question of fitness at the moment when it comes to Lindelof. I think it's just a case of when Maguire plays, right?
Yeah, Lindelof's got to play. He has to play.
Crapton Maguire is the worst purchase in history. Picasso FC, draw after draw. Picasso FC, that's not bad.
I like that.
And Blue Dabadee says, I just feel bad for Lindelof. He played great, but then got his house broken into while his family was there, and he just gets benched for what? Toxic. Ray Diaz says, missed the game on at 4:30 a.m. in California. Big up all the people viewing in the United States. It's early, I can tell you. But I can assume we played well first half and gave up a goal early second half. Groundhog Day. I tell you what, Ray, if you haven't seen the game or the result, that is unbelievable. I'm assuming you haven't. And you've got some kind of Mystic Meg settings going on. I'm assuming you wouldn't even get that reference. That's such a British reference.
Mystic Meg.
Mystic Meg. Yeah. But bang on. Let's get into some of the quotes from Ralf Rangnick. So Ralf Rangnick after the game said, quote, unfortunately, it was very similar to the last couple of games. A very good first half, a very good first half hour. We did all the things we intended to do with the counterattacks and deep runs. We created and scored a great goal. Just lost my place as well, which is frustrating. There you go. We created and scored a great goal. Then we stopped doing that. At the end of the first half, we didn't do those things anymore. Then in the second half, we lost a bit of shape. In the first 20 minutes of the first half, we were struggling to defend. First 20 minutes of the second half, rather, we were struggling to defend. That happened in transition when they scored their goal. There you go, DJ. In the last 20 minutes, we had big chances to score again. Expected goals was in our favour, but we didn't get the results. He also said, quote, "We told the players they needed to be aggressive at halftime, but in the end, it's different to perform like that on the pitch." So, James, that's quite an interesting thing he said there. He basically said at halftime, no, look, I told him you need to be aggressive, and they just haven't done that. So, as from his perspective, what more else can he do?
Not much, mate. Not much. But we've been saying this for ages. When he came in and he brought in that 4-2-2 formation, and we were saying, yeah, we were going to press, and we did it in that famous first 30 minutes against Palace, right? That everyone talks about, like it's that famous 30 minutes, like it was like in the new camp in '99 or something. But everyone talks about like that, like it was like that just prime Rangnick ball, right? Like it was pressing, it was pinning the opposition in, it was creating chance after chance, quick transitions, really great pressing. And we've not seen it since then. But that's not Rangnick not telling the players to do it. They're just not capable of either doing it for long, sustained periods of time, either because of fitness or just because of like mentally, their application just isn't up to it. Because there's no way he said, yeah, just press for 30 minutes and then stop. Or play well for 45 minutes and then get less aggressive. Let's just sit off them and let them play. He's not said that. He's been clear in the fact he's not said that. So if I'm a player in that dressing room, I'm looking at myself and I'm like, where's your ability to apply what you're being told to you? Like De Gea came out the other day and basically said, you know, we keep on having conversations. Is there a curse on us? We don't know what's going on. And it's like, well, at the end of the day, the players have to shoulder a lot of the responsibility for what's going on, because this isn't the only manager that you're failing under. You failed under Ollie, you failed under Mourinho, you failed under Van Gaal, some of you failed under Moyes. So it's like you've got to put the blame and shoulder some of the blame on yourself. There's no chance that he's not telling them what to do. It's a player application thing from my point of view, nothing else.
He also said, DJ, today we had an XG of 2.57 to 0.57 for Southampton. It's not a question of not creating chances. It's a question of not being effective enough. Would you say that's a fair assessment? And what do you make of the whole XG thing? Because I don't know about you, but looking at that game, I wouldn't say it's a game we dominated at all.
Yeah, I think maybe it sounds like he's just watched, like he's going off the first half and that's it. He's like the first half was it's kind of like he's just going off the first half. But I just do think that it comes down to clinical finishing, and you know we had a few passages of play which looked pretty, it looked nice, but it's just about being clinical. And Southampton, they were more aggressive, they wanted it. Like the game got, I don't know, it was like around the 70th minute, the game got really scrappy. Like there was tackles flying in and the ball was stuck between like bundles of players, and then Southampton would break with it. And we never won any of those battles. Like we never won any of those. And all this XG stuff, I mean, yeah, we can look at XG, but at the end of the day, we need to make it a reality. That's it. Make it reality.
I think also as well, like you can talk about XG, and then because maybe we did have a lot of good chances in the first half, but should we be more clinical? 100%, absolutely. But you don't always take all your chances. You don't score every time you have a chance. That doesn't happen. And just because you create enough chances, that doesn't give you the right to win a game. Yeah. You still have to do both sides of it, right? You still have to, if you don't score the goals or you score one, you still got to defend well. If anything, puts more pressure on you to defend well. And maybe that's the problem. Defensively, we can't handle just the smallest modicum of pressure. A little bit of pressure, heaven forbid. Or like he said in the press conference yesterday, concede a goal, but we just lose complete shape. It's over because we're not going to score another goal. We know we're not going to score another goal because we can only score only one goal at a time at the moment.
Yeah.
So
the players start getting anxious and we start giving the ball away, and our quality just drops immediately.
Bobby G says, don't forget it took Klopp a few years to get players fit enough and smart enough to do the press. The only thing I would say about that, Bobby G, is that Ralf doesn't have a couple of years. He's end of the season, so he doesn't have the time to do that. At least with Klopp, you could say, well, he's got indefinite amount of time. And, you know, it was a couple of years before he actually won something. Yeah, he was getting to finals, that's fair. But even that whole thing, like, that's what I was saying to KG on the phone at halftime earlier. Like, if Ralf had a couple, like, you know, if he was the permanent manager, which he won't be, but if he was, you would say, well, let's see what happens, you know, if he has a full preseason, etc. But he doesn't. And Blue Dabadai says, Varane plays better on the left with Lindelof beside him, and Dalot also plays a lot better with Lindelof. It can't be a coincidence, right? Ray Diaz also says, When does Maguire's barber start reaching out to media about Rangnick's poor defensive training? And by the way, what a pass by Bruno to Rashford. Sancho's goal was a good pass. Also, Rangnick said, quote, it was very similar to previous games, unfortunately. It's the fourth game where we were ahead, but took 1 point instead of 3. It's a difficult one to take, but we have to accept it. And I have no doubt that he's frustrated with that. Let's move on to another player, James, Luke Shaw. I saw a lot of people maybe not particularly happy with Luke Shaw's display today. What did you make of his performance?
To be honest, I didn't really notice Luke Shaw that much today, which is probably a bad thing because I like to see him getting forward a lot. When he's playing well, we do create a lot of chances through Luke Shaw, right? Like the link up with him and Sancho on the left is usually what creates a lot of our chances. So the fact that I didn't notice him probably meant that it wasn't great from Shaw. Their goal, I think he's playing people onside as well. I think Dalot should obviously get out quicker. I think it's poor from Varane as well not to close the space. And Shaw's playing everyone on at the back post. So ironically, Maguire is probably the only defender that doesn't shoulder any blame for that goal, but shoulders blame for everything else. Shaw, the whole Shaw-Telles argument and discussion is a lot closer than the whole Dalot-Wan-Bissaka one. Sorry, KG. But I think Dalot is our starting right back. I genuinely do. I don't think he was superb today, but I think he's our starting right back. Whereas with Telles and Shaw, I kind of think you can flip a coin at the moment, and I'm not really that fussed either way. They have different attributes, different strengths, different weaknesses. They both offer something. But Shaw today, wasn't the worst player on the pitch, but he was nowhere near the best player on the pitch either. Like probably below average for me.
DJ, have seen quite a few people saying when it comes to Shaw, and like James said, maybe you didn't see a ton of him today. Maybe you would have wanted to see more, especially with the importance and fullbacks of Rangnick's system. But I've also seen some people saying, well, he hasn't really, whenever he's played, he hasn't been able to form a relationship because he doesn't really know who's going to be in front of him, right? And even in the game, that changes as well. And certainly at points, and I think this is a criticism of both Rashford and Sancho, by the way, that they didn't necessarily track back a lot, and he was overloaded a lot in that fullback position. To touch on what James touched on, when it comes to that discussion of Telles or Shaw, how do you see that at the moment, DJ? Is it close, or do you lean one way or the other?
Much closer than we originally thought it would be. I remember when Telles first came in, hardly got any games. I think he got a couple of games in the cup or whatever it was. But everyone was saying, Shaw's clear first choice for the left back position. Shaw's performance today, it was just okay. I think he had a better game against Burnley. I think this game he was a little bit more muted. The relationship with him and Sancho was there a little bit, but then that got disrupted when Rashford came over to the left. I thought from the Burnley game, we was going to start seeing the Shaw and Sancho sort of like duo a little bit more today, but it just wasn't that. And maybe that was something that Southampton was doing. Who knows at this point? But again, I like to think of myself as Mr. Ruthless FC. If someone came in for Shaw and put a decent amount of money on the table, I'd sell him. I would, because these players, they've been tried and tested now. It's not working, or it's not working to where we want it to work. It's time. I honestly think a lot of these guys, time's up. Obviously, if he stays, he does need to get some consistency going, because that's one big thing I will say with Shaw. He'll have one good game. You'll be like, oh yeah, he's getting forward, he's whipping the ball in the box. And then there'll be a game where he doesn't do any of that. Literally one extreme to the other. So with Shaw and Telles, it's close. Has Shaw done himself any favours to keep himself in the starting 11? I think maybe the Burnley game gave him a little bit more grace. I think he will start on Tuesday. But if he does have another stinker, I do think maybe Telles will come back into the fold eventually.
Guys, be sure to smash a like on the like button. We've got over 500 people watching. If everyone smashes a like, we'll be at 500 likes. Simple as that. That's how it works. I tell you what, that's why I'm hosting the show. That's the kind of maths I'm bringing. These comments are really interesting from Ralf Rangnick, actually. So he says, quote, this was in an interview to BBC after the game, we have to understand where we are. Southampton won 2-3 at Tottenham, and they expected to win easily. Don't know about that. Says, we got a point today. We expected 3 and needed 3, but that is the situation. That's why there was a change of manager and why we are here. So that's quite interesting, James, because that's probably the first time that Rangnick has kind of said, look, I'm here for a reason. I'm an interim manager for a reason. Like, if things were good at this club, if the players were good at this club, I wouldn't be here. And he hasn't really said that before. Do you reckon that's kind of a case of him sort of trying to defend himself a little bit when it comes to recent results?
I think he probably is. I'm going to disagree a tiny bit. I think there's one little comment he made a couple of days ago where it was like, Man United haven't won a title in 10 years. There's a reason for that, or something like that.
Yeah.
And when I read that for the first time, I was like, oh, he's got a bit catty. That's the first time I've seen I've seen him defend himself, right? And yeah, he probably has said it to defend himself a little bit. Listen, I think everyone knew that the job at Manchester United was big. I don't think Rangnick knew just how big it was, how much pressure he was going to be under, how much every single little thing that he says is going to be taken and run with by the media, and he's never going to be able to do anything without everyone writing an article about it or sharing it. The fact that there's leaks all over the place, the fact that on the field we're nowhere near where we need to be, where we used to be, or where we want to be. So he's realizing the job's much bigger than he thought. He's now probably coming out and defending himself a little bit, which he has every right to do. But I also think over the last 10, 12 years, how much managerial experience has he actually got? Not loads. He's got probably more sporting director experience than managerial experience. So it's probably took him by surprise a little bit, the whole situation he finds himself in. And so far, he's been very raw and ruthless in his comments. Like what you see with Rangnick is what you get. Like he comes out in his press conference and he tells you why we lost the game. He doesn't come out with excuses. He's basically like, oh yeah, we played well for 30 minutes. Then the rest of the half was poor. And then the second half, I told them to do this. They didn't do this. If that was Ollie, it would have been a different scenario, protecting certain players. Whereas he's just like, listen, this is it. I'll tell you my team 3 days before. I'll tell you who's going to play, who's not going to play. I'll tell you why we win, lose or draw. And I'll tell you if the players say this or do this, and I'll call out them. And he's just German, isn't he? Like, sorry to be stereotypical, but he is. He's just an absolute straight-talking German manager. And I don't think some of our fan base and some of our players can deal with that. I don't know whether you're going to come on to the comments or you may have talked about them in an earlier show this week, but about the whole players being disillusioned with Rangnick's training system and saying that, comparing it to Ted Lasso and all that kind of nonsense. And it's like all these things are coming out. And at the end of the day, Rangnick must be looking at it and going, what circus have I joined here? Like, what is going on?
Yeah.
It's
Especially
unreal,
some of it, we spoke about yesterday, especially with some of it, he must be like, well, I know that's not true. Like that, that must be the craziest. That must be the craziest thing. Like, it's one thing to be like, oh, how did they find that out? But it's another thing to be like, that's just made up. Yeah. That's not true. But that comes with the territory, right? That comes with the territory of being a Manchester United manager. I do want to talk about this one as well, DJ, because a lot of players, obviously, after the game, they'll say that these players don't care or they don't care enough about the United shirt, etc. Rangnick has actually responded to this in his post-match interview. He said, quote, I don't think anyone should believe the players don't care. The question is, how can we get more compact and aggressive and nasty when it comes to defending a lead? It's a major issue, but not about the players not wanting to do that. What do you make of that comment? So him basically saying it's not a case of desire, it's a case of quality, baby.
Yes, and I fully agree with him. I fully agree with Ralf Rangnick there. I've been saying it for a while. And I think we all have to be fair. Like, we have, as I said, we have players big in name that on a piece of paper, it looks amazing. But really, fundamentally, are they effective within this Manchester United team? And are they as good as we think they are? And the answer is they're not as good as we think they are. And Ralph's just calling it how it is. He's like, look, these players, they're just not as good as you lot think they are. But I think that's what he's really saying. Deep down, he's really saying, yeah, they're good players, but in this instance, they're not as good as you think they are. And I think the quicker we get our heads around it now, the better. Because we're seeing teams with sort of lesser big name players, effective, functioning, they're doing the basics right. They're aggressive. Like yeah, they're nasty in the tackle when they need to be. And I love the fact that our managers come out and said that. He wants our players to be aggressive. Ollie, he wouldn't have said that. He wouldn't have said, oh, yeah, I need my players to be more aggressive and more robust. And no, he would have just tried to sugarcoat it, talk about what it means to be a Man United player, talk about maybe the fans. Yeah, these boys will be performing in front of it. Forget it, Ollie. Let's just keep it real. Ralph's keeping it real. And yeah, it's actually refreshing to hear some of these comments from him, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, James, what do you make of that one? Because that one is quite a big comment for him to make. Because again, sometimes the accusations thrown at the players, they don't care and all that kind of stuff. But he's denying that and just saying like, yeah, we need to be defending Leeds better. We need to be more compact. We need to be more aggressive and nasty. Basically, just saying we need to want to win more. We need to show that a little bit. But it's just a case of it's not a case of them not wanting to do that. It's almost him basically hinting that they can't. They're not good enough.
Yeah, I don't know which is worse.
I know, exactly.
I'm still trying to figure it out. I don't know which is worse. I think there's some truth in both statements, to be honest. I think technically they're not good enough, as Rangnick says in his quote. I think, he's saying it's not a case of desire. I would argue that I think sometimes it is a case of desire. You wouldn't hear people like DJ arguing for people like Phil Jones to come back in if desire wasn't an issue, because we don't think technically he's miles better than Harry Maguire, right? We just think he cares more. I think, I don't think Phil Jones is a technically blessed, fantastic player, but I do know that he cried when he walked off that pitch against Wolves because it meant everything for him to play. And it comes to something when you, as a United fan, you want people to start because they're showing passion. It's crazy. Like, people are like, oh, Passion FC. It was in one of the comments before, right? So I think some people do lack desire. So I disagree with Rangnick a little bit. But then I'm also comparing it to people that I watched growing up and thinking about Robbo and thinking about Keno and people that actually had passion and desire. And I go back to it all the time, but that standards banner that gets passed across the Stretford end with Robbo and Keno and Cantona. And I'm just like, I said it to DJ before, but we are a million miles away from the club that we grew up watching, from the club that we grew up supporting, from what we are used to seeing from Manchester United. And I think our generation, I think I mentioned to Owen before, like, sometimes you can go one of two ways. Sometimes you're just grateful for what you witnessed. You grew up in an era where we were the most successful club in the world, challenging for trophies and winning the league every other year. And sometimes you get a bit entitled and think, we're Manchester United. We should just be able to win everything, no questions asked. And football was a bit different back then, but one thing you can't question is the desire back then was miles higher than the desire now. And there's definitely players in that team that are lacking desire. But it is good to see Rangnick come out and call out some of the technical qualities of the players in saying that, listen, they're not capable of doing what I ask, is basically what he's trying to say.
Yeah. Exactly. It really is. Abdurrahman says, today's my birthday. Manchester United just spoiled it. Oh, dear.
Sorry,
Abdurrahman. Well, happy birthday anyway, but oh dear. No, they haven't spoiled it. There's still plenty of the day to go. Don't write your day off like that. Lawrence says, as soon as I see Maguire on the team sheet, I just thought one more draw. He plays like he belongs in the championship team. I miss Smalling.
Wow.
Wow. Ray Diaz says, but this team has been like this for 10 years now. It's fair. It's fair. Rangnick also said, DJ, if I see the goal we conceded again, it was too easy. It was not even difficult for Burnley or Southampton to score these goals. So certainly seems an element of frustration for him. As we wrap things up, DJ, I mean, I know I usually say our top four at the end of the stream, and I've started with that, so I won't end with that this one. But can this season be redeemed? I mean, we mentioned earlier on, it's not mathematically impossible that we're not going to get top four or anything like that. But today was a massive blow. There's no doubt about that. Can this season be redeemed? Does it just take a big performance, a big victory, if in a game, maybe against Brighton in the week? If we win that game, we actually take our chances. Does the outlook completely different, or are we still going to be this fragile team for the remainder of the season?
We can't redeem the season. As I said,
samples. It's a big statement to do that in February.
Yeah. Hey, look, I'm prepared to die on this hill. I mean, if we pull miracles, and I know
last rights for DJ then. Jeez.
Yeah, I'm being honest. If we pull up some miracles and win the Champions League, brilliant. But that's not even brilliant. That's wow, crazy. That would be one of the biggest.
I was going to say you should brush over that one quickly. If we win the Champions League, brilliant, I guess. Oh.
Yeah. But I just think these players. I've checked the sample size, Owen. We'll have a game where we score a late winner, and we all feel boosted as United fans, and it's amazing. And we look forward to the next game, and then we draw. Do you know what I mean? They're stuck in this pattern. And I don't see it ending until the season's over, until we change certain things behind the scenes, X, Y, and Z. We all know. And yeah, I just don't see it redeemable, man. This is it. We're going to be doing this up until the end.
El Dundarino says, I've lost confidence in Ralf. He's responsible for picking this team, and it's simply mind-boggling how he chooses to start Maguire game after game. Interesting. James, do you think this season can be redeemed? I mean, I know you're the optimist and you'll say that until it's mathematically impossible, it's still possible. Do you still feel the same after today?
About top 4 chances, no, but the redemption thing, or the can it be redeemed? It depends what your expectations are for Manchester United, right? If your expectations are winning the Champions League and getting in the top 4, maybe it can't be redeemed. If the expectation is just to learn to play some kind of style of football under Ralf and see him improving us as a team and maybe getting a settled 11 and starting to see patterns of play on the pitch and stuff like that, then yeah, there can be a chance of it being redeemed. It depends where your expectations are. Unfortunately, I hate writing off another season in terms of trophies and stuff like that, but it's looking less and less likely that we're going to win anything or even reach top 4. I mean, we're not playing with any kind of level of consistency that we need to be able to compete with other clubs in the league and other clubs in Europe. But I am hopeful of Ralf just being able to actually finally get through to the players and the players actually believing and being able to actually do what he's telling them to do, right? Which is clearly a problem at the moment. So I would expect us to be a better team come May than we are now. And that might be where I've kind of moved my expectations to. And I would kind of almost be not happy with that, obviously, but I'd be satisfied with that, because what else are we going to do this season, really? And I can't go into the rest of the season miserable. What life is that?
I know, exactly. Got to try and be somewhat optimistic. Anyway, guys, look, we're out of here. Flex will be with you later on this evening, of course, for all of the fan views outside Old Trafford, plus his view. Be interesting to see what the fans inside the stadium thought, considering, as we spoke about, there was a bit of a mixed reaction at the end of the game. So it'll be interesting to gauge the moods of everyone there outside of Old Trafford. Anyway, guys, look, we're out of here. Have a good Saturday if you can, and we'll speak to you again very soon. Peace.